Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello.
So let's start. Last week I was focusing on the CI part of a Crimson to try to paste the result of perf test to the check type of a PR. I'm pasting a sample in the chat window. So hopefully we don't need to copy and paste the test result from the Jenkins log file to the GitHub PR page as a comment anymore. And aside from it, I was discussing the interruptible continuation with Xuehan regarding to his proposed change to interrupt a ongoing request due to, for example, the change of interval PG. That's it. Chenmei.
Yeah, I finished the POC of extend MapTree and have provided PR. So please review. And Kafu, please take a look if the interface is enough. The extend manager interface is enough for the SeaStor. Okay, that's me.
We have a guest. Anything you want to share with us? Okay, let's move on. Ronan.
Hi everybody, good morning. You hear me today? I'm heard today, yeah? The mic works.
It works.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay. So, scrubbing and got over some of the previous bugs I had, and I hope in a short while to try to rebase it, to show it to you and get some feedback. I hope it won't take long. Currently, there are still some issues that I'm fighting. Another thing is that from today until the end of, like I said yesterday, today until the end of the week, I'm in a virtual conference in England, C++ on C. So we'll have less time to work on this, but hope to get something done. That's it for me.
Thanks, Ronan. Sam?
Yep, I'm still working on the LVA pinning subsystem. I've got most of it written. I'm adding in the code so that replay will pre-populate all of the parent nodes of dirty nodes. After that, there's some refactoring I want to do and write some tests, but I should have a PR out this week. That's it.
Thank you. Xuehan.
Last week, I implemented the interruptible feature to avoid our current way of interrupting the continuation chains. And I did some early perf test, and it turns out that I think the interruptible feature is just too expensive to be implemented on the critical I/O path. So after the discussion with Kofu yesterday, I think I should turn to the PG pipeline way, which utilize the PG pipeline to make IO processing and other events processing mutually exclusive. So we can just interrupt the ongoing IO processing by checking the interrupt condition when entering the some specific pipeline phase, and that's all for me.
One question.
Yeah.
The issue is just why there is a lot of feedback now. Wow, I can't talk like this. John, can you for a moment close your side, your mic?
You mean me?
Okay. What I was trying to ask is, what are the scenarios for which we need to interact? What I'm thinking of is my experience with interrupting incoming queues of operations. You have to find a way. Usually, you have to find a way to signal an up to here point, after which you don't cancel the queue. And we need to understand what is the scenario and how do we mark this point.
That's not really what we're doing here.
Okay.
Yeah, so in models like that, you're worried about pausing an ongoing sequence of operations. This is completely different. So in this situation, you have received a signal from elsewhere in the system that causes a state transition in the OSD, and it's no longer correct to be processing I/O.
And you are not coming back?
No. I mean, in the sense that you're picking up an operation that's in progress and canceling the rest of it, yes. But it's not like you have the option to keep to finish that operation. That's not an option.
No, I understand. The issue is, is there a point that after which you have to, in new incoming requests are okay? You're not talking about this scenario.
I mean, yes, but it's not. It's more like any operation that's tagged with an epoch number prior to some point should be dropped. Something like that. In other words, this is not very much like canceling a queue. This is more like sequences of operations where you release locks in between. Every time you reacquire the lock, you need to check to make sure it's still valid to be operating. Here, it's not a lock so much as a continuation you pick up and resume, but that's what we're talking about.
And the epoch is the tag you use.
That's not the only. Don't fixate on the epoch. That's not the only case where this can happen. There's more than one case where an operation may need to be paused or canceled. The important part is that that when you pick up after an asynchronous operation, like await, you have to check whether it's still valid to be executing. There are a number of ways that could be not true. The mechanism needs to be general because there are a lot of these things.
Okay. My bottom line is that we need to make sure we all agree on what are the scenarios we are handling, because this will affect the cancellation.
The scenarios are the ones that are already in classic OSD. This is a well understood problem, to be honest. Like classic OSD already has this problem. When a thread resumes operating on an operation, that, for instance, you drop the lock to do a read and then you pick the lock back up, you need to go check to make sure that the PG didn't change state and you're still allowed to do that I/O. Every operation basically has these properties in like the entire code base.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. This is the scenario I see. I know the code that checks for that.
Despite sharing, it's like in the scrub code where every time it picks up, you have to check to make sure it's still the same interval.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
So despite using the words queue and resume and things, it doesn't really have anything to do with the more common usages of those words.
Okay, thanks.
I just wanted to make sure I understand this correctly. If in the classic OSD we just re-enqueue the
no, it depends on what you're doing. No, it depends on what you're doing completely. Like some events have to be dropped.
Drop the request from right?
Some events get dropped. All peering events, for instance, get dropped. But it's not because peering events are special. It's because if you go read the peering algorithm, you'll find that the primary OSD resends them in the new interval. So there's no reason to keep the old ones around. Yeah. By contrast, client I/O does not get resent unless the primary changes. So not only can you requeue them, you're required to.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yingxin?
Continue that topic, I think a similar issue is in Messenger that when there's a asynchronous operation, when it came back to continue the protocol, you need to check whether the connection state is too closed. And if it is, it needs to drop the operation and wait for the gate. And yeah, this week, I'm working on generalized insertion logic with recursive template. So the same logic can be shared with internal node. I'm also preparing some internal sharing this week. That's me.
You're muted.
Kefu, we can't hear you. You are muted, Kefu.
Oh, sorry. I forgot that I was muted. Yingxin, I was asking what the internal sharing means. Is the internal sharing the element between the sibling nodes, or internal sharing the knowledge between your workmates?
Workmates. It's about the opportunity to integrate the system memory with SeaStor, like that.
Ah, gotcha. Any questions or comments?
Kefu, since nobody working on the MapTree, can I do something investigation on MapTree?
Sure, I can see no reason to start looking into it.
Yeah.
So you will do it?
Nope, I was still struggling with async operation on the tree. The template is
MapTree.
So,
I mean, MapTree, not node tree.
Yes, regarding myself, I still fighting with node tree, so I have no extra bandwidth working on MapTree. Please feel free to take it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I agree.
So I will do some investigation. Okay.
But
okay.
Yes, but please make sure it's we have a card tracking it, so in case that somebody else wanted to take it.
Take it. Do not try to do compression or any cleverness. Just write the simplest possible version. That's my suggestion to you for now.
Sorry, can you repeat, Sam?
At least at first, don't try to do key compression. Write the simplest version possible.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's very distracting. Anything else? Nope. Okay, thank you guys, and have a good one. See you next time.
Cool. Ronan, if you wanted to talk more about what I was talking about, that would be fine. I was just trying to head off the discussion about queuing, since that's not quite the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's okay. That's I understand, and that's fine. When I know more about what is needed.
It really is just, for instance, every time you do the .then, right? If the operation blocked, then when it picks back up, other code may have run in the meantime, right? And that other code may, for instance, have transitioned the PG from active to peering, or into a new interval, right?
Okay.
And in that instance, depending sensitively and depending on exactly what's going on at that point, it probably means dropping the operation. And that means different things for different pieces of code. I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay, basically what I'm trying to understand is, do we want to do it in a more general way, or
ideally,
what
yes.
I see in classical? Okay.
But
because currently the code is
it's tough to generalize. That's all. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. What I see in classic Scala code, some of the checks are indeed generalized in the way of the can cancel, but most of the code are repeated. Most of the checks are done repeatedly and specifically inside the specific functions in the code, which I'm not sure is the best way.
It's tough. So if you look at the replicated backend and EC backend code, they use a blessed context conceit, which just wraps whatever the relevant callback is in a check like that. So you could call that a general approach, but it actually depends on the piece of code. For the scrub code, for instance, your decision about whether to continue does depend on the interval change, but it also depends on whether scrub has been, what's the word, interrupted or canceled. So you could imagine creating a wrapper for the callback context that includes an am I okay to continue lambda, which you could just write once for the whole subsystem. And that's a totally valid approach. I think Zhuihan's trying to integrate it into the PG pipeline code so that each pipeline thing will have its own such, is it okay to continue between stages? I'll have to look at it. It's a little tough because there are, like those continuation chains do have continuation chains that, or do have pauses that don't necessarily happen in the pipeline stages. So we'd have to be really careful about that. But in other words, yes, I'm okay with generalizing it. It's just that it doesn't look very much like your standard stop the queue problem. That's all.
Okay, understood. Thanks.
All right, talk to you later.
Okay, thank you. Later. Thank you guys, and see you next time.
Bye.